Ой! Добре, не клипваме.
Hi, this is episode 2 of the NousCast. Last week's one did surprisingly okay, about 300 views in 2 days, which was amazing to us. So anyway, this week is the second birthday of our debut full-length album Nous. So today we're gonna talk a bit about this, a 2-year retrospective. So we've told the story 100 times to everyone around us. We officially closed the chapter last year with the last show of the cycle. So now, instead of going over the story again, we're just gonna talk about how it feels to us right now, track by track, what we feel like we could have done better, because now we're a bit more detached and we can look at it as listeners, not just as the ones making it. And also we're gonna tell you a little bit about the behind the scenes process of how it was made and so on. So what I would consider the beginning, I think you will agree with me, is the lineup change that we had before we started officially pushing, before the concept of having an album was formed in our heads.
Yeah,
So,
2018.
Yeah, about 2018, the spring of 2018. So we had the lineup changed. We knew what the crew would consist of. It was the three of us. We would have to do it as a 3-piece. Which was fine. We had a great time, I think. It was the most tight-knit that the band had ever felt, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, because there was less of us. There was more work to go around with less people, and we were mental about it.
But there were also fewer people that could be late for band practice. So
That is true.
That
but we
helped
did
a
our
lot.
best. So yeah, I think it started then. We already had I think 1 or 2 songs that were the in-between songs after the end of the Crossroads cycle and before we had the idea of the album.
I feel like we had the first 3 or 4 songs. We had Boulevard for sure. We had Flash Emporium.
We had the first iteration of Boulevard.
Yeah,
though.
yeah,
It
yeah.
was the Soy Boy one. More on that later.
Yeah, and I think we also had No Fun Intended.
Yeah, but by head he means not the song was there. It was, a tablature with missing second guitars and parts that needed to be cut out. So yeah, just a rough draft of these songs. We hadn't played them together, I think. We played Flash Emporium and Boulevard because we did this with the old lineup on the festival. On Silver Lake.
We had both of them were like Flash Emporium was about 90% as it made it into the record.
At least in terms of guitar parts, the vocals changed a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, I think even the lyrics kind of
No, the
remained.
lyrics were radically
were they?
different. Yeah.
I don't remember the first lyrics, to be honest.
Me neither, but we don't talk
But,
about that. Just on this medium period between the end of the Crossroads chapter and the beginning of what we would consider the Nous chapter, we had a few songs also that didn't make it. We had one that we played live a couple of times, just didn't feel right, carrying it forward. And we also, I at least had a few more songs that I don't think I even showed you guys.
Man, do you remember how we desperately tried saving this one? I mean 12.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was... to this day, I'm still kind of sad that we couldn't make it work.
I'm not, to be honest, because all
I
of
know
the
you're
ideas, all of the ideas that were cool got sort of a better version of those ideas in some of the other songs. So the cool aspects about this song, for example, the intro riff with the octaves sliding stuff, this is in Forever Until, similar idea. Also, the big chorus is found in a few other places. So, yeah.
Maybe I'm just looking at it through rose-tinted glasses.
Yeah, maybe.
Could be.
Also, we have the tendency to use almost everything we write. I mean, we don't have the typical, for example, Odd Crew. The guitar player has told me that he writes like 40 songs like a factory production machine, and then they just pick the best 10 or something, which I don't really relate to.
I think most bands do that because you know how big bands, when they fall apart like 10 years, 20 years afterwards, they suddenly an unreleased song pops up because they all record tons of songs and not all of them make it into the albums.
Well, maybe it's just a matter of being a better writer and being able to do it faster, but it's just two separate approaches. Like, the way he told me, the guitar player from Odd Crew,
Mm.
the way that he works is like he writes a song a day. Basically, he doesn't worry about it being good or the best song ever. He just starts producing like a factory machine. A lot of them are the same. He takes one idea, writes 2 or 3 songs with it, and they're mutually exclusive naturally. And the way I do it, at least, is I work on something for a few months until it's awesome. And if I don't like it, I don't just throw it away. I change it to make it work. So yeah, this is why it was a strange experience, because we've only thrown out like 5 songs, I think.
Yeah, he just throws shit at a wall and sees what sticks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is fine. I mean, it works for them.
Absolutely, yeah. So anyway, this was the what we were talking about now was the purgatory between the 2 chapters, which is something we experienced now between. Anyway, this is another topic, but yeah, I would consider the end of this purgatory period the moment when we had the lineup change and we picked a concept for the album, what it was gonna sound like. Was it gonna be 2 EPs or 1 album? The fact that it would have a concept, a story, and we started having a vision, putting the different scattered pieces that we had together and starting to figure out what the next songs needed to be to complement what we already had, the beginning, the 2 or 3 songs. Now that we had the lineup, we come to the writing process, which the way we write is it's been the same ever since the beginning so far.
He does the guitar parts, and after he's like about 99% ready, we get together and do the drums, and afterwards I do the bass all by myself, and we do a demo. Actually, for some of the songs in the album, we didn't even do a demo.
Yeah, which was a mistake, to be honest, but thankfully it worked out for the most part, but the demos would have been helpful.
I'm gonna be honest, the songs that we had no demos for turned out to be the best, at least for me.
Because they were written last and they were way too hard to play. Yeah, anyway. So yeah, the beginning it's always the same in the regards for when he says he does the guitar parts. What he means, I think, is I do the whole song basically, but just the guitars. I imagine the other instruments, because the guitars in this style at least are the skeleton. So I try to not show the song to the guys before I have a complete structure from beginning to end with every part, and I have, of course, ideas for what kinds of vocals go on top, what kinds of drum parts, and everything like that. We haven't done, I think, the thing where I just give you the riffs and then we assemble them together. So yeah, it's a different approach. I think a lot of bands actually work this way, so it's not anything unusual for the style. But yeah, so basically I write the songs and then we do the arrangements together. That's how it works. As he said, drums first, then the bass, and then we do the demos. And the writing process itself, the first part was I spent like a year and a half just gathering ideas, like 50 gigabytes of tiny videos. My phone is full again with the new stuff, but anyway, so this is the first period where I'm just gathering little ideas without worrying how they're gonna fit together. And every song, I spent a year and a half collecting the ideas, and then at a certain point I stopped, and every song that we had was in there. I didn't make up anything new. So for example, Damnatio was just the intro melody with the acoustic guitar. That's it. I had this and I knew this was gonna be a song. So yeah, every song was like that. I had like a little chain of riffs, maybe 2 minutes, maybe just a single chord progression of like the Damnatio. And yeah, and the next chapter was putting all the ideas together. So a year and a half of not so concentrated brainstorming of ideas where I don't worry about anything. And then we had the lineup change, and then it was like time to make the album. And actually the interview with Odd Crew was a big influence on that part, I think, for me. I've told you about this, I think. They had an interview, the guitar player and vocalist of Odd Crew, with Party Trip Bros. The interview is unfortunately deleted. Ivane, майка ти стара. And
yeah, bring this
моля те
back.
върни го, това беше много добро. Anyway, they had we were, taking our time. It was our first full-length album, and it's a bit hard to, when you're staring up at a mountain of the remarkable body of work that is 30 minutes of music, this is unheard of when you're just had an EP, with. So yeah, in this interview, the guitar player said like, do stuff faster basically. What are these bullshit terms of writing an album for 5 years or whatever. Do it faster, make the mistakes, get them behind you and stuff like that. So the moment we heard this, it was a big slap in my face at least. And the album was done in the span of 4 months after this. And on the end of the 4 months, we had all of the songs and we had booked the studio.
Yeah, and as he said, like do the album faster and don't take 5 years. I feel like in these 5 years you could just make 3 albums. At least one of them will be passable, and one of them might even be real good.
Of
But
course.
you don't lose anything. I mean,
Of course. You can just not listen to, which is a kind of a paradox, right? Because you have on one side, you have the perfectionist approach, and on the other side, you have the, telling the inner critic to shut up a bit and, just accept the fact that you have to put in the work and make the mistakes. There's no skipping that really, because before this album, we had made an EP that we are not really too proud about. It was an essential part of the band's history because it was the first songs we put together. But what do you do then? You have the slow song, you have the fast song, you have the medium song, and that's it. Easy. And you just copy.
And we had the acoustic interlude for no
which
reason.
was anyway. So and this was the first album. So it's like of course we're gonna make the mistakes. And by the way, this is how the Hecktic mantra came to be. Drum roll. Do first, think later. So
too much thinking turned out to be bad for you.
Yeah, absolutely, because this was an absolute monument of a body of work that, as I said before, staring up at the mountain from the beginning, it was horrifying to me at least. I don't know how you felt about it. Ain't nothing to it but to do it.
To be honest, there were certain times that I was sure we wouldn't get to make the album. I mean, I felt like, from my perspective, it was like it's been a month and I don't see any progress being done. I mean, you're telling me you're writing songs, but I'm not seeing them.
Yeah.
And to me, it's like nothing's happening from my point of view.
Yeah.
And at one point, I was like, dude, I don't believe we'll ever make an album. Like,
but we did though.
We did though.
Yeah, this is the one of the negative sides of this approach because, as I said, I don't show the ideas to the other guys before I have the song because, a riff out of context doesn't really do much. It's not an ego thing or anything, just we naturally fell into our roles and it turns out to work perfectly fine. But this is the negative side because on one hand, when they get a song, they get a complete thing and they can see why the things are there and everything works. On the other hand, sometimes it's like 2 or 3 months before I have another song ready to show them, which is for them it's like, dude, I get the videos, but like...
Well, actually, since then you've opened up a bit. I mean, you dare to show us songs on way earlier stage. As
which I'm
opposed to the
still
album.
Extremely anxious about, by the way.
I know, but it has its upsides too because it can be really frustrating getting a song that's complete. And we do the drums, we make our own parts. I do the bass, and a week later he says, "No, that's not gonna be how it goes. No, just scrap half the song. We need to change it."
Actually, I don't think that happened with Nous, to be honest. But it's
No,
a different approach
it
with the thing that we're doing now, because now we're a few songs into writing the next album. I just finished number 3 yesterday, actually. Now, at least, I'm opening up myself up to the possibility of not having to have everything written in stone the moment I show the song to the other guys. Because, for example, with the first few demos for this one, like I had the song as best as I could, like I had with Nous, but then we did the demo and I was like, okay, I allow myself to change stuff here and there, not like rip out entire sections, but like add this harmony here or change this riff up a bit, so it goes in cycles. Like we write the drums, I get another idea when we have the drums, maybe tweak stuff a bit and stuff like that. So that's one difference, because when we were writing Nous, it was the first time and the process had to be streamlined a bit. So
which gives me mad anxiety because I don't know when we finish a song, like
the new ones, you mean?
Yeah, the new ones. We did like 2. One of them is like 90% there, and one of them is like 60% there, and
We're actually gonna write drum parts for the third one that I finished yesterday after finishing this podcast.
Oh yeah.
So
Don't
say we are not doing anything.
Gives me mad anxiety because to the day that we record them, I don't know if this is going to be how the song goes.
Yeah, you better read the patch notes. So anyway, this was a total of 2 years at least, I think, of writing. The first year and a half was just brainstorming ideas and slowly putting stuff together, and then 6 months of concentrated, I take one string of riffs and I just spent 2 months obsessing over it every day, trying different stuff, until everything works. And it's a violent process really for me. It's not effortless, the inspiration came. I think about it every day deliberately. Even the brainstorming of ideas, the last 2 months of the process were a summer break from university, which was the first summer break where I actually had a break of about a month and I didn't have exams left over or whatever. So I just soldiered on. This was a marathon. I wrote at least half of the ideas in this 1 month. Not even kidding. It was like I got up in the morning every day, which is about super early, like 12. I sit at the computer, stare at the screen, and just I don't allow myself to move my ass out of the seat for 2 hours. Literally, soldier mode. And I just try to put stuff together, brainstorm my ideas, and then when I'm that tired, I get up, do other stuff throughout the day, and when I'm rested by the evening, I do the same 2 or 3 hours again. So it was like literally, no exaggeration, like 4 to 5 hours every day of just sitting in front of the Reaper project with all of where I just record all of my tiny ideas and brainstorming stuff. It was not some type of thing where I had the inspiration and wrote it in a day or whatever. It was just gathering the ideas this way.
So what about the lyrics? How did they come to be?
They were the last part, actually.
Yeah, I know, but I know there's a lot of research in them also.
Mm-hmm. So, yeah, as we mentioned, you know this already. If you're listening to this, you've probably heard us tell you that the album is a concept album with a story 100 times, so we're not gonna get into this. But the writing process itself, I spent quite a bit of time, reading dozens of books, literally, throughout the whole period, assembling ideas of what it is I wanted to express with this. And, each song had a role from the beginning. So I knew what kinds of topics would be covered. I knew the general outline of the story. I just didn't know how exactly it was gonna fit together. So a few songs had some lyrics, but to be honest, when we finished writing everything, it was this autumn of 2018, I think.
I think that's when we started recording.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So the studio was booked, and I was writing, the day before we went to the studio to record, I was writing the lyrics for the second one. So this was really cool actually because I got to be another person. Before that, I was just focusing on getting the music done, and then I stopped being the guitar player. You put everything aside and just didn't touch the guitar for like a few weeks, like a month or something. And I just wrote all the lyrics, the drum recording, because we had some breaks in between when our mixing engineer was busy. So we had about a month and a half after we started recording before we had to start guitars. So I basically wrote almost all of the lyrics in this month and a half, which was really cool because the writing muscle started, getting used to it. And by the end of it, like my favorite lyrics are the last couple of songs, which was the end of it. And like Damnatio was done in a day. It's the longest song, the longest lyrics. Like it's twice as long as the others. So yeah, the writing muscle was in full swing by then.
So progressing from fall 2018 to winter 2018, we had begun recording. And as we told you in the last podcast, that's when we played the At the Gates show. And we wanted to send a couple of demos from the album because we didn't feel it was appropriate to send the EP because we were already ashamed of it.
Yeah, when we were considered for the gig, we were asked to send a couple of demos, so we had to scramble and, record emergency vocals, pick out solos from the demo, whatever, just to get it done in a single evening to get a working mix ready to show the guys from At the Gates.
Yeah, we did No Fun Intended and I think Flash Emporium that night. I remember that we stood in the studio till like 4 a.m. I think, and we mixed everything. Vocal takes were absolute shit, but it did the job. So
Yeah, actually, the vocals, my vocals at least, for no fun intended, were the album vocals.
really,
Yeah.
mine weren't for sure. I remember I was shouting my throat out, like zero technique,
Yeah.
everything from the lungs, and after that my throat hurt for like 2 days.
Yeah, actually, the whole recording process was one of the most intense periods of my life, to be honest, because then it was the most bullshit year of university where I was forced to be there like all day, because I was there from 8 a.m. in the morning until about 5 or 6 at night every day for about 2.5 months. I think it was this cycle, because in my university we had 2 months this subject, then 2 months another subject, stuff like that. So this was overlapping with the process of recording. So I had to, be in university all day. Then I come home, start recording guitars until I have to go to the studio. Then I go to the studio. The mixing engineer, I picked him up at like 8 or 9. Some days I even didn't get home. So yeah, and then we go to the studio, and all of it was done at night because, of course, everyone's working or at university, so you don't really have the blocks of 3 months of freedom where you can just do anything. It was the whole process was really violent, the writing and recording and everything, and I was like stretched out to my limits, really, because I had to be there for everything. When the drummer was recording the drums, I had to be there to make sure that there weren't small differences, as I told you yesterday.
Yeah.
There was like tiny things that we missed out on, for example, different patterns with the kicking drum that didn't fit with the new change in the guitars because he didn't see it or whatever. And then when we were doing everything, I just had to be there. So it was regular nights of, coming home at 5 a.m. and having to get up at 6 or whatever, and then go to university, stay all day in university, come home, eat, go to the studio again. And this lasted for about 2 months.
Yeah, it was basically the same for me. I still have a day job, so I was working 9 to 5. Then I get home, grab something to eat, and rush to the studio. And also at that time, I was moving away from my old apartment, which was also a big stress. I had problems with the neighbors there. So yeah, I remember getting home at 5 a.m. Neighbor from the upper floors having a fucking party, and I have to get up in an hour to go to work and do everything again. But in the end, it was fucking worth it.
Of course, yeah. But yeah, and even because what we just told you doesn't sound stressful enough, we had the At the Gates gig. So we were, of course, not in performance mode. Each of us was in writing mode. Like I had recorded guitars already.
More like recording mode, not writing mode at that point.
Yeah, of course. But it was still not gig form or whatever.
Oh, yeah,
it
sure.
was like playing sitting down all the time, recording, getting the meticulous takes. It was definitely not being able to, play a 40-minute set. And
band practice was taking a backseat at that point.
Of course, yeah. So we had spent about a month and a half doing this, and then the At the Gates show became a thing, and we had about a month to prepare. So it was literally every day. Like when we weren't in the studio, we were in the rehearsal place rehearsing for the At the Gates show.
And we were also moving our practice space at the time.
Yeah, so everything at once.
We got, I think it was October, we got chased away from our first practice space because
it was illegal.
Yeah, they were tearing the building down, I don't know. So we were moving into a new place, which, first off, it had power problems.
I died there, yeah.
Yeah, he died there. Second of all, it was like the North Pole. It was really, really cold.
Colder than outside, really.
And also, I think, I don't remember why, but the week before the At the Gates show, where we practiced every day, we couldn't play at the practice space. We had to rent.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So that was a last minute thing.
Yeah, and when there was no COVID, the 2 or 3 rehearsal places that we have here are actually fucking busy, so you have to book 2 weeks in advance, and we wanted to play every day because there was 1 week until then. We had to, So yeah, it was the most intense 2.5 months. You know, I had to be at university study for the exam, because at the end of these 2 months there was a brutal exam. Of course, you don't just, you know, record and practice and finish writing lyrics and solos for some of the songs, because Damnatio and Forever didn't really have solos or everything, so it was all at once, you know, writing lyrics at uni all at once. And it was just, by the end of it, I was like, I've just lived 5 years in the span of 2 months, you know.
It's like that meme, being in a band isn't stressful.
Yeah, but it was amazing. This was the most alive I've ever been also, because it was literally living the dream. Like, I don't care what the outcome would have been. It wasn't like, oh, are we gonna make it or whatever? No, we made something that, in my view, needed to be said, you know? It was a super weird experience. When I had the songs, when we had the few demos and stuff, the songs already existed, we hadn't started recording yet. I liked some of them so much, and I was like, please, universe, let me live until I finish this. Literally, I had this literal thought, and now I have it as well with some of the new ones. Like, whatever happens, let me finish this, then do whatever you want with me. Like, it was cringe as fuck, I don't care. So, yeah, I literally had that feeling, and when you see it before your eyes, because it's 2 years of preparation, and then in a span of like 2 months, you do the recordings and you see it come alive in front of you. Like, and we hadn't, as he said, we hadn't demoed all of the songs. We skipped pre-production on a few. We couldn't play them at all together. Some of them we played for the first time like 6 months later when we were preparing for the
promo show.
Yeah. So yeah, it made me feel so alive seeing all of this come together. Literally living the dream. And the dream was not like having so much attention or anything. It was just making this and bringing it out in the world. So yeah,
doing something that matters to you.
Yeah, of course. As we said in the beginning, this was a super tight-knit group of 3 people that this was the most important thing to us, you know. Sometimes, of course, now in peaceful times when there's no wars approaching, you know, when you plan stuff for the band, it's like, oh, this guy has a birthday party. This guy is dating his girlfriend. This guy should do this on this day. This guy is seeing his grandma. Then it was like, no, I'm not seeing my grandma because I have rehearsal. This was the most important thing to us for like...
the only thing that existed at the time was the band.
Of course. And even before that, like, our drummer spent the summer grinding every fucking day. When I was like finishing touches like solos, last details on the arrangement, he was super anxious about being able to record this stuff. So he spent all summer grinding. Like the fastest song is like 205, which by today's standards, what we do right now is like nothing. We have like 230 whatever, but we haven't played stuff like this before. So
yeah, dude, in the span of like 3 months, he became a fucking beast.
A fucking beast. So much so that like one of the songs is an entire take. Like we didn't edit.
Dissolution?
No, Flash Emporium.
Flash Emporium.
We did warm-up takes for... He did all of the drums in like 4 days. And by days, I mean evenings.
Yeah.
All of them. And we didn't even... You know, there was, of course, editing involved because you always do this unless you have 3 months to spend there. But there's no quantizing, no snapping to grid or anything. So, and some of the songs, like... I was there with the engineer and the drummer because he had to work different shifts and stuff. There's no need for excessive manpower. We always did these practice takes, so he can remember the song before we started recording. But secretly, without him knowing it, we recorded all of them. So Flash Emporium was like the 3rd song. I think we did them in order. And when we got to this, he had done another song that day already. He was super warmed up, not tired yet. We just hit record when he started, and me and the mixing engineer were waiting outside in the corridor, just listening. And by the end of the take, we just looked at each other and were like, there was nothing wrong with this.
Yeah.
And we just hit save. And there's, of course, one part where the big riff drops before the solo, the tremolo riff, where it's just a Dave Lombardo moment where we get outside of the grid for a bit. And like it takes us like 3 or 4 bars to get on the grid, and we just kept it like that. And because the takes aren't edited, we recorded to the drums. So this is why we wait for the drums to be ready before we start tracking guitars and bass, because we record with the drummer's imperfections in mind, and we match them and not the grid.
Yeah, we don't play to a grid because I feel like that makes the music more lively. Sometimes when I listen to much of modern music, everything's so quantized that kind of sounds robotic, which I don't like.
Also, don't get us wrong, of course, we record to a click, and of course, most of the time
Yes,
it's on
but
the grid, but yeah, it's
the click is
human.
mostly a suggestion.
Yeah, like the
It's not
pirate
the-
code. One crucial element also of the whole preparation process was we got all of the people around us involved in one way. Like, we did not stop spamming on social media.
Oh yeah, that was the moment where we started learning what social media is for bands and how to use it.
For the record, we still don't know, but at least we started attempting it then.
Yeah.
And it started from the beginning, really, when we had the lineup change. We had the Wacken battle
Yeah.
right around that time, so we made quite a bit of noise. And then everything related to the album, I was so annoying. Like, I made Instagram stories with everything I did related to the band. I had like an average of 3 per day, which is like a joke compared to what Damien Keys says we should do. But Damien, we're not a pop band. Our songs take 3 months to write. I can't write a song a week, okay? It's like 7-minute monsters with no repeating parts. So shut up, okay? Anyway, we love you, by the way. So I had this sheet, with where I had each song, like drum parts, demo, tab, your lyrics, everything. And every time it was time to cross something off the list, I like made stories with it. And by the end of it, the whole process of 2 years almost, the views started. You start knowing your people when you look at who's watching the stories. And like I had, I think, in Messenger like 400 stories on 400 views on average.
Wow.
In Instagram about 300 or so, which is like, of course, a joke compared to some people, but we're not some people. We're our people, and we're very tiny. And this was like amazing to us, but you see them as numbers. You don't really realize what's happening
Until you meet them in person,
until you meet them in person.
which
and this
we'll
was
get to.
We're getting to it right now.
Yeah.
And this was the amazing part about the Nous promotional show. Like, we've never had a show where we were the main event. We were,
Except for the EP premiere?
yeah, the
But
other promo.
Yeah, that was 2 years before
But
that.
even then, the other guys were actually the stars of the show, to be honest. They brought the people in,
Oh yeah, we were
Yeah.
absolute nobodies.
which
at the
was a
time.
great gesture because Field, they gave us all of the gear. They, out of courtesy, and, they just came and made it happen. Anyway, so it comes time, to do the Nous promo show. And we took turns standing on the reception of the, how do you call it? On the venue, people
yeah, the
coming, paying for
entrance.
Yeah.
Entrance. Man, I gotta say, this was the show where I had the most anxiety. Like, half the show, I don't even fucking remember what happened. I remember lights go out, we're on stage, Denko does the drum thing, and afterwards my brain comes back into my body when we're like halfway through the set.
We've had like, I'd say 20-ish gigs before this, maybe. So it was definitely, we were not the most experienced band, at least we were shitting ourselves every time, but it was definitely not our first time getting in front of people. We opened for At the Gates a few months ago, which was like a bigger audience than this. So we had some chill by that point. However, I remember when I was at the entrance of the venue, saying hi to everyone who came in, my first thought was like, oh my god, these are the people I've been watching for 2 years as viewers of the stories.
Yeah, and you see them in person.
You see them in person, like, oh, it's a 3D image. And then, everything's fine, like we're pretending we're not scared shitless. Some of us are, literally, if you know. Anyway, so, we hang out in the backstage, setting up stuff. Time to go out. The opening bands have finished playing. We are the main event, which is unusual to us. Usually, we play first before the anxiety has time to set in, then fuck off and, chill. But this time the cortisol was building up, there's a very strange phenomenon actually. I don't know if it works this way with you. The way that sound check sounds, the type of sounds that come out of a sound check, checking the drums, checking the guitars. This just gives me anxiety because I relate it to something that, the show is coming.
Yeah. When you're on stage and you hear like the big sound from the guitar, like not only in your earphones. That's
you
when
have
you
a moment where, God, why am I doing this?
You have the sudden realization, oh, okay, shit's fucking real.
Most of
no
the
going
time
back.
It's fun. Yeah. Since then, it's been mostly fun, to be honest. I haven't felt that scared. The shows after that, we had like 7 or 8 shows after that. I had fun for the most part.
Well, to be quite honest, this is what makes shows fun. I mean, if I don't care that I'm on stage, if I'm like not scared at all, it's just going to become routine. It's going to become boring. That's how I feel. I don't know. So you see it as a
positive thing when you
yeah, for sure. Like just a little bit is fine. Too much when it's visible through the audience, that's not fine. Yeah. But when it's only inside me, then it's fine. It gives me the
that what you do matters or something.
Yeah.
Well, I don't have that. I'm just scared. It was horrifying, and I remember. So we woke up after out from the tiny little minuscule backstage, and we just see so many people. Like I couldn't believe it. We had 170 and about 170 or 175 something like this entrance. We counted the money, from the entrance. So in this venue, from our point of view, it was crammed and. We've played to bigger audiences.
It was cramped because it's kind of a small venue.
Yeah, it could fit like 50 more, no problem. But so there's room in the back, of course. But from our perspective, everyone was so hyped because we oversold the shit out of this, We spammed stories, we put out teasers, engaged with our people. Everyone was so hyped. I just couldn't believe the reaction, how everyone was so into it because we've always been the opening band. We've never had this kind of attention, and attention, I don't mean like a cult following or just people genuinely caring, people genuinely wanting to hear. You know how when you play a gig, sometimes nobody knows you or even if they know you, the vibe is not there and they're just standing like, because there's room in the back, they're just standing like 10 meters from the stage or whatever. Not the case. They were on the edge. And my first reaction to this was like, oh God, what have we done? Literally, it was like so many. You see like 300 views. Big deal. Other people get 20,000 views. You see half of those 300 in person in the same room. It's a fuck ton of people. For me, I just,
Yeah, I mean, that's people that turned out to see you, to see me, to see us.
Yeah.
Which is kind of special because when we are an opening band, like we're not the main attraction.
No.
We're just a side meal, so to say.
And this was our home,
and,
right?
Half the people will probably be outside smoking and drinking beer. But when you're the one doing the show and everyone's presumably here because of you, that's
then
I think that was
actually seeing what you're doing.
Yeah, I think that was the reason I had so much anxiety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because when you're an opening band, there's not that much pressure. I mean, there is always pressure to do good, but even if you fuck up,
they're still fixing the sound anyway.
yeah. Like I don't feel like everyone's gonna care. Like they didn't come to see the opening band.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's always been our mantra to, even if we're like the opening band at like 10 a.m., we're always going to try and give our best. Even if there's like 3 people, we need to give these 3 people the show of their lives.
Which we've done a bit later than that to like 8 people or something in some of the smaller cities.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, this was my first thought was like, I just woke up. I was like on the left of the stage as we are now. I woke up from this side. come to my side, and I just walk past all of these people. They're yelling already because they're seeing. We had these banners for the first time, I think.
Oh yeah.
It was super cool. Like before this, we were like, my pedal board is a cable, and anyway. So this time we had the backdrop, the lights, these banners and everything. So it started looking like a show, and my first thought was, imposter syndrome. What this means?
Yeah.
Like, I just didn't feel like I'm worthy, or not even worthy. It's not even worthy implies ego or whatever. I was like, guys, I can't do this. I can't deliver, right? So the first song started and it was fine, but like, this was my first intention. Like, oh my God, they're gonna find out that we're not it. We've created this monster, this band that can play this music and writes this music. And now here we are, because then we played with no click track, which, we played with no backing tracks of different synths and stuff. We had one guitar, so it was which part of the picture do I paint, because now she's really intensive on the two guitar thing. So it's like, do I paint Mona Lisa's left side, or just super naked? Everything is like super, can't get more real than this. You're just, nothing is hiding you or protecting you in any way. You're just naked, exposed completely.
We did a tour afterwards. We did like 3 shows in Plovdiv, Varna and Burgas. They were of mixed quality, so to say.
Varying degrees of success.
Yeah, but I gotta be honest, we didn't do our homework of promoting them that well at the time. I remember Burgas. It was actually pretty cool.
It was fucking cool, yeah.
I'd totally go back there to play. Like any day of the week. It was great. The people there are fucking awesome. The venue is cool. Everyone's cool.
Well, yeah, we had played in Burgas before on the Sea of Black festival. So
yeah, but that was the first time that we were doing a club show. And not a festival, which is totally,
but some people
totally
knew
different.
us from it was not like cold approaching this audience, like, who are these guys? Why should I care? Like, some people knew us. It was a pretty small show, like 40 people, I think, something like that. But in this tiny venue, it looked more
good
fine.
Thing the venue was really tiny.
Yeah,
it looked way more cramped than it was.
Yeah, but the reaction was really amazing, because by that time the album was out already.
Yeah, for like
we
a
had
month.
also like a month. So all of the noise like makes sense, because when we were doing the promo show, they were hearing these songs for the first time. So we had 2 singles out, and that was it, because it's how many songs are you gonna put out of a 35-minute album? You can't put out half of it. Maybe you can, I don't know.
You can.
Yeah, you definitely can. Maybe we will next time. When we were in Burgas, the album was out for a month and a half. The people had actually learned the songs, and I remember you told me like, oh yeah, it's happening, I'm living it. Like, I went to a place that's not home, and I found people that gave money to see me and cared. That's what you told me, which was very cool, because it was an emotional roller coaster. We had the first night tell that, oh, that's amazing, the next 2 shows are gonna be exactly like that. Prepare
Spoiler
for
alert,
a good
they
time.
weren't.
Fucking shit. Like, the second show was a disaster, all of the technical difficulties at once.
Yeah, everything broke. I remember my stage monitor all of the time, throughout the whole night. It was making a hissing noise. I was literally afraid for my life.
Yeah, and we don't have the backing tracks, but we have the intros on a few like Damnatio.
Yeah, and the show intro.
Yeah, for some fucking reason, it was stretched. We couldn't play it from our computer. We had to play it from another computer or something like that, because everything was... Anyway, it was stretched, so it was out of key, because the pitch had also changed. On top of that, the intro for Damnatio, by that point you've heard it probably if you're listening to this.
Hopefully. If you haven't, you should. It's
No,
fucking
if you
good.
haven't, what are you doing here for help? Anyway, how did you find us? So yeah, it's like on one side on the left side or right side, I don't know. On one side is the repeating melody. On the other side is stuff that's building up.
Oh yeah, and it was like only one channel.
Exactly. So it's
And the
like
melody is
building up
missing.
all the time, same melody for a minute and a half, and we were like, this is retarded, what's going on? So we're like just cringing. The longer it goes on, the weirder it is. Like, the people are there like, what's going on? Is this a ringtone on loop or something? and then on top of all, like, we don't know when to start because we don't hear the build-up. Like, it starts with the fade-in, like, you can't even count it up or whatever. And then we finally start, and I'm like, what is happening? What am I singing? What am I playing? Is my guitar out of tune? Because it was stretched, so the pitch had changed.
Oh yeah, I feel at that song I also thought that one of us was really out of tune.
Yeah.
I was like in a part where I don't play. I was checking my strings if everything is in tune, and I didn't believe my tuner. Like, it says it's in tune.
Maybe you clicked one of the little buttons that
No,
changed
no,
the
you
key or
can't.
something.
No, you can't do that with your foot.
The
The buttons are narrow.
persistence, I'm sure you can.
Probably.
Yeah.
Fortunately, I don't know.
Yeah, this is just. Oh.
But even at the start of the show, we had a false start. Yeah, you remember? Like, the mics were off. Like, we had an intro with orchestral things playing, and lights are out, and then our drummer does like a do 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 do, and we hit a big note. We say, "Hello, Varda."
But what you hear is.
Yeah, because mics are fucking off.
Yeah, and the worst of all, like, the sound guy is right in front of me, and I'm just like. And he's like.
So yeah, we had to start the show like twice.
Yeah, and it's not even the fucking mic, it was the XLR or whatever. Anyway, it was complete fucking disaster. And like, imagine this. You've played one of the nicest venues here. It's really, I love this venue, the mixtape. Yeah, it's amazing. It has two sides. One is for big shows, like it can fit 300 people, I think.
Oh, more. I think
it's my favorite place. We've played there 3 times, I think.
Yeah, 2 Wacken battles
and at the gates. Yeah, it's amazing venue. Sounds acceptable for Bulgarian standards.
Oh no, it sounds really good.
Sometimes even really good.
Some of the best sounding shows were there.
And it's cozy, everything's nice, everything works. It has another side for smaller shows where it can fit like 200 people or a bit cramped, something like that. It's smaller, so...
If they're not overweight, 200 is the limit, yeah.
And it's also really nice. Everything works, you know. For venue standards, it's also clean. The toilet review would have gotten like at least 4 out of 10. And then you come to a venue that's a total disaster. Like, I'm sorry, guys, I'm probably a bad person for saying this, but like, nothing worked there. Everything was broken. The people were no help at all in this regard. Like, they messaged me, I was booking the show, they messaged me later and like, oh, you're this other band. And no, just scroll 2 messages up, see which band I am. Anyway, let's not get into this. But yeah, you just have this contrast of one place where you have 170 people, everything works, you know it's nice. And then you go to another place where nothing works, there's 20 people. Because you didn't do your homework, of course, we're not blaming the venue, this on the venue, but like it's a very sharp contrast, and this emotional roller coaster was new to us.
And speaking of nice places, the final show we played on that mini tour in Plovdiv, it was like in something like a library cafe.
Which I loved, actually.
It was the most non-metal place you could play.
It was metal as fuck, if you ask me.
No, like everything was nice. Like, I felt like I was in a cafe, in a library, but and it was so vintage that the mixing console was analog. Like the sound guy says, just so you know, there's no presets.
Yeah, so line check everything. Yeah, this was also a really small show. Like, we had the least amount of people, like 15, I think. The opening band had more. Then their set ended. They left because they had to go or something, and then it was else the other band and like 10 or 15 people, which was like our first experience of playing to an audience this small, which was like, all right, they're here for the show. We do everything we did for the other 170 people. Like, they came to see us, doesn't matter, they paid the same money. So yeah, and it was more of a, I think we made it work, because they liked it. It was not
the people...
Come on! It was like a quiet sort of clinic approach. When between the songs you don't say, fuck this place up! You know, you just say, alright guys, so this next song is, you explain it like this. So the atmosphere that it was a library or a cafe fit in my... I liked it, I had no issue with it.
I definitely didn't feel metal, so
Yeah.
to say. I didn't feel like head banging or doing
But you
funny
did
faces.
though. This was the funny part. Like I got the atmosphere, what it was going to be like. So I was like, okay, I'm going to be a bit chill about it. Like obviously, 5 people are not gonna start a circle pit and throw chairs out of the window or something.
There
So-
was chairs everywhere. There was no place to do a circle
Yeah.
pit.
So I was like, all right, it's gonna be like a clinic vibe, like a listening party, which is cool with me. And then 2 or 3 songs in, I look over to this guy and he's like headbanging, windmilling like we were playing in Vakken or something. So didn't care at all. Like there was this sort of a mismatch between what was going on, but he had hair all over him. So he was like, time to clock in the hours, boys.
Well, that's what you do at a metal show.
Yeah.
I mean, you can transfer high energy if you yourself are not. If you are low energy.
Yeah, of course.
That's how I feel, at least.
Yeah, I just feel like it's a different sort of. Anyway, it worked out fine, but yeah. So after this emotional roller coaster, we had a few more shows. Then we did another circle, another mini tour with
With the
other
same
bands.
cities,
Same
yeah.
cities, yeah,
Except for Burgas.
because they closed the venue.
Yeah. That was such a
And-
shame. I was so looking forward to that.
And this concluded the Nous chapter. So the last show in Sofia, we officially said this is the last time we play the album from start to finish.
Yeah, and it
Um,
had been a year, I think. Of
It was in
gigs.
from spring, we did another one 6 months later, in winter. So it was not.
Oh,
a-
yeah, that was 2019. That was so yeah. It
Yeah.
wasn't a year because then COVID happened.
Yeah, and then at the end of this, it was a perfect timing, at least for us, because other friends of ours, they had their albums ready at the moment where COVID hit, like Velian.
Yeah.
So it's like if we had to postpone Nous for 2 years, I would have gone crazy.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But thankfully, we managed to play in all of the places where we wanted to play twice. So
We did the fucking Chuck tribute. It was sick.
which was one of, I think, my favorite show we've done after the Now
It's-
Psycho ended.
It's bittersweet for me because it was the last
show
gig
with
we
this lineup,
did.
yeah.
We did with our ex-drummer, but
Yeah, during the second tour, he decided that he wanted to focus on other stuff, which is totally fine, of course. But we knew already, and the last 2 shows we had to do this way. And by the way, dramatic moment. This is the time when I realized that this whole band thing, the people you have, it's literal magic and it's so precious and fragile. Because before this, I didn't even pay attention to this. I was like, fuck yeah, all of us are on board. It's gonna be the 3 of us forever, basically. And then you realize that things change and people find other interests. And
yeah,
when-
human beings have lives.
yeah, and when you see a band in front of you playing an album that they wrote the music, they managed to arrange the whole thing, how to write it, how to find people with similar tastes that can also play, that work together as people, and then bring them here from the other side of the world or whatever, and there it is like such a precious and rare moment is happening in front. I just never saw it this way. Like when a band is coming on tour, I was like, oh, there have been a band for 20 years, no big deal. It's like you're missing the late night show or whatever. No, it's happening now. 2 months from now, there might not be a band anymore, like Children of Bodom, for example.
Oh yeah. I was so lucky to have seen them like 5 times.
Yeah, but it's like my vision, at least for this, completely changed then, because I took the people I have around me for granted a lot more. Of course, nobody died, knock on wood, but like the magic in this regard was gone. Before this, we were like inseparable, the 3 musketeers, moving mountains together, and then it's like
More like the Three Stooges.
maybe then it was like, all right, boys, the drummer said, I'm gonna leave, this is not what I want to focus on right now. And we were like, fine, let's just finish the last 2 shows. He was like, yeah, of course. But these were really like melancholic. It was not like before this, I feel like these guys have my back, right? We're gonna crush things together. Then it was like, this is our last show with him, right? So, and it's not even that it's so fatal. It's just that your whole vision of having a place that's solid and that you can go home is like not there anymore. You realize that people are gonna leave you, and that's fine. Like they're gonna have different tastes. They're gonna change. Their tastes are going to evolve. So right now we have a collection of people that we have decided that we want to work together until we finish the next chapter. And of course, after this, we'll see how everyone feels about it and if they want to go on. But like, now I know that this is so precious and that I'm not taking it for granted. That's how I wanted to say. It's I see the magic in this. It's like, yeah.
You want to take a little pause?
Okay, fine.
And we're back.
It's like we haven't been gone at all.
Yeah, through the magic of editing.
Yeah.
So now we're going to talk about the songs from the album one by one. We're going to do a track by track, which we were supposed to do 2 years ago.
Which we actually filmed.
And never uploaded before because it was too cringe.
Yeah, it didn't work out at all. It was like trying to hype the songs up or whatever before we even knew how we feel about them before the album release.
Yeah.
But now we've played them live tens of times.
And
in
in
rehearsal hundreds of
times.
and personally literally thousands of times, and I think we can look back on them and see how we feel about them and see the good, the bad, what we would have done differently, what we liked and
Do a
stuff like
little
this.
A retrospect. So
A retrospect, which is cool because we see them in entirely different ways. Like I still can't detach myself that much from them, even though when we play them in rehearsals I feel like I'm playing someone else's covers because it's been a while. It's not like I wrote them yesterday, but still I think we have radically different views on them sometimes.
Probably, for sure.
So let's start with the first one, the first single we released, the opening track, the No Fun Intended.
Yeah. When you first told me the name, I thought it was a fucking joke because we had done Boulevard of Broken Ribs, which, if you haven't figured it out, is a play on words on Boulevard of Broken Dreams, which nothing to do with that song, but just sounds funny. And we get our kicks from stupid shit like that.
But only
like
if
that.
it fits, though. So
Only
it's
if it fits.
Not stupid memes for the sake of it.
Yeah, and he told me he was going to write a song called No Fun Intended, and I was really cringing, but I was also happy because
such a bad joke.
Yeah, because it sounded awesome.
It's like heavy and sad, and the theme is like dark and stuff, and it's like No Fun Intended. It fit, I think. It's the title. It was a working title, as we told you last time, and it just fit the concept. So why not? If it fits, it fits.
Yeah, if it fits, it fits. And I remember the first time I heard it, I was, of course, every time I hear a new song you give to me, I'm like, what the fuck is going on?
I'm braced for impact every time. I'm like, oh no!
Because if
These are the only people I care about. I don't care about what other people think, but I care what they think because, they have to like the things to be eager to play them and, to be in the band in which I'm the main songwriter. So, yeah.
So, yeah, it was coming up from our EP, which is like thrashy metal stuff, and it was like all classic structures, classic riffs, like it was like something you've probably heard before. And this was kind of different. It took me some time to figure it out, but once I figured it out, I really loved it. And I remember that I asked you to make that the single, like I wanted this to be the single, like day one.
I think we both wanted it because we knew it was gonna be the opening track, and we wanted to have the opening track as the first single because we knew we were gonna open every show with this. So when you don't have that many eyes on you, it's you have limited attention span of your followers or whatever. So you wanna feed them the things that matter most. So they have the attention span for one song, and it's the opening song. Like they hear it, it's this band. Yeah, I know the music video. It's not like the single is 7 songs deep into the set list or whatever.
Yeah, I feel like lately most bands have been doing that. Like and it's because I think it's rooted in the old days when vinyls were a big thing, because the edge of the vinyl plate has higher sound quality. That's why they put the singles first.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and the more you get to the center, the more lo-fi it gets.
That's super weird. Do you have any idea why?
I don't know much about vinyl, but I know that's the reason people did it in the old times. But yeah, like even now it makes sense for like other reasons.
Yeah, of course. This is the least of the reasons, to be honest.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like maybe for the 10th anniversary we'll do a vinyl release.
Maybe, yeah. But yeah, this song had to fulfill a couple of roles. So it had to be an opening track. So it had to start with a bang, you know. It had to also be the single, which means it had to be a showcase for a lot of the things that were gonna happen in the album.
And to be as catchy as it
To
can
be as catchy as possible, yeah. And it's a really simple structure. The riffs are derivative from each other. There's no weird shit, no weird transitions or anything. It has a, yeah, it works. I think it fulfilled all of these roles. Like, I like playing it. It's easy to play, really. So this is another plus for an opening track. You don't want to shit yourself when you're, you know, not maybe properly warmed up. You don't know how the stage sounds, and you go on and you have to play your most complicated thing, which we're gonna do actually from now on. But anyway, but yeah, I think
too
it
easy
fits the
being
roles.
easy.
Yeah,
Yeah, but it has one of my favorite live moments ever. Like the solo, the riff under the solo. First
Mhm.
part is really groovy, and the second parts, yeah, you hit huge chords and headbang the shit out of your brains.
yeah.
I love it. I really get a huge boner when I play it live.
It's also, I think, you know, as you mentioned, we had the thrashier influences with Crossroads, and this was, I think, the third song written for the album. And by that point, I had discovered the magic of the key of A when you play on a sixth string. You know, it's not the typical thrash thing where the lowest open string is the root note. The second lowest open string is the root note. It's in A, so when you go down to the sixth or the fifth, which is like the open E string is your fifth in this case. So you get used to, you know, playing in A, and then when you do the fifth chord or whatever, it's like extra big and tense, and it just has a bigger sound, I think.
Yeah, but going back to the part where it's an opening track, sometimes it's actually a minus because it's really tough on your right hand. At least for me, it is. And when it's cold and we're in our practice space, it can become really painful.
Yeah,
You
it
know.
can. But yeah, at least compared to the others, like it's 180 BPM. It's
Oh,
one
yeah,
of the
yeah, for
slowest
sure.
songs. Like you can do it compared to if you had to play Boulevard first or Forever Until or stuff like that, or one of the new songs. For that would be
Oh,
a
yeah.
disaster.
At least No Fun is tough for the first a minute and a half. Like
yeah, and if you
till
have
the second verse, then it's
if you have like at least 10 minutes to warm up, we'll be fine. If we have to play one of the harder ones, we need like half an hour at least to warm up.
yeah.
So yeah.
But also another really important point were the vocals. I remember vividly that it took me probably 1,000 takes to record the vocals on the chorus. Do you remember that?
Maybe I think I don't. Not
It's
really sure.
I don't know what note it is, but it's one of the highest notes
It's
I've
one
ever
of
hit.
the, you know, you don't hit a static note with the end of the line. It's
Yeah,
like,
it's like
"Ah!"
you're doing a bend on the guitar,
Yeah. So
but it's really high. I think that's the highest thing I can hit with my voice currently. But this was a fucking bitch to record. It was take after take after take, and I had to like double it or quadruple it. I don't remember.
we stacked your vocals a lot, I think.
Yeah.
Mine were left like a single track for the most part because I just prefer the sound of that, you know. Same as the guitars. This is a bit of an off-topic thing, but like I would rather have one guitar left, one guitar right, one voice when it's possible, because it's like someone is playing to you. It's not this wall of sound where everything gets squished. But yeah, anyway, different topic. So yeah, any other remarks you have for this song?
Well, the other thing that I like to joke about is the lyrics about teenage angst.
Yeah.
Because it's about someone rejecting authority, basically.
Rejecting the trappings of civilization, because yeah, it's both a gift and also it's tyrannical in a way. And yeah.
But if you, especially for me, if you read the lyrics out of context, it sounds like a Nirvana or Linkin Park song.
I hadn't thought of it this way, and then when you saw it and you were like, "Oh, this is his teenage angst," and I was like, "Fuck." I guess you can say that. Meanwhile, what I was thinking is like genital mutilation, circumcision, like any stuff that's like birthright rituals where they cripple you anyway. So, or the concept of original sin in religion. He was like, oh, teenage angst, yeah. He didn't like going to school in geography class. Yeah. So, yeah, any other remarks for this song? I really like the solo also.
Yeah, the solo is a high point for the song. In summation, it's a great opener. I love it, love playing it, love listening to it. It's I'm surprised that after 2 years I haven't grown tired of it, and I still like listening it. It's fun, although it says it's no pun intended.
Yeah, it's cool. I think we're gonna keep it in the set.
Oh yeah, for
quite
sure.
a bit of time, because it's when you have other songs that are with weird structures, this is like it's good to at least half of the set to be like songs with structures that make sense.
Yeah.
And this is everything is correct here. Like
it's a breather. Yeah.
It's a pop song in structure wise.
Yeah.
Could
It
have
has
been on Dua Lipa's album.
So transitioning to something that isn't that
And
fun
now
for me.
something completely different.
Dissolution. That's the tough one. At least for me. When I first heard it, I didn't like it. When I recorded it, I didn't like it. And to this day, I don't know what to think of it, to be honest. Maybe I hate it because of the recording. I don't know.
Cry too during the recording.
I don't know if I've told you this, but there was a huge storm when I was recording this, and my power went out. Guess what? I lost half the song.
I think I guessed right, yeah.
Yeah, and I was doing like 100 takes per part, and it was really, really, really tough. And I was ready to throw my bass out the window at that point. That was the song that really broke me, recording wise.
Yeah, same, because it was the fourth song that I wrote for the album. The first three were No Fun Intended was one of them, Flash and Boulevard. So they are all the typical repertoire of, thrash metal guitar. You have your 16, nothing can really go wrong. If you know how 16th notes should sound, how downpicked 8 notes should sound, the basic things that you learn with the first few Metallica songs that you learn, if you can do this, you're fine. This one, Dissolution, was the first foray into stuff that actually requires a brain.
Yeah, I remember you were a lot into Obscura at the time.
Yeah, it's influenced by that kind of vocabulary, like the typical song that's moving a bit more into the direction of death metal, but still not the most intense shit ever, just more varied techniques, riffs that are maybe a bit like solos sometimes.
Oh yeah, and the solo, which has a riff I can dance to.
Yeah.
I don't know why I always have the urge to dance while playing the solo riff.
Well, because it's a groovy, but I like some parts of it a lot. I like I like it because it's our first foray into what I would consider like, outside of the repertoire of vanilla stuff. So, and yeah, like after the opening riff, the first riff where it's the first verse, fucking heavy, man. When we put on the anvil samples and stuff, like it's so, it feels like someone is stomping something. Yeah. Very heavy.
Speaking of the anvils, do you remember the chains?
Yeah.
So at the end of the track, there's a sound of chains being dragged, and
it's part of the story, because it's a foray into the next song, and the picture for Flash Emporium was like this giant like stone quarry or something with people as far as the eye can see walking in a line with chains between them. And to transition between this song and the next one, at the end of Dissolution, the story goes that the end of Dissolution causes this situation that we talk about in Flash Emporium. And yeah, we decided to add in this sound effect.
Yeah, and it was really fun recording it because imagine this, it's like 2 a.m. or 3 a.m. We're in the studio.
It was the regular working hours. So
yeah. And we've brought, everyone has brought all the metal chains and keys.
All
and
sorts of
weights,
trinkets and weights.
Yeah, barbells, like dumbbells, everything. And we strap them together. and we start walking through the corridor, which was spooky as fuck, by the way.
Yeah.
It's like this really big socialist building with really tall corridors.
We ripped out the flooring so that it's concrete, so that the metal stuff drags on.
Oh yeah, because it was mostly
This
rubber.
bullshit communist thing that they put on every socialist building, like this nasty, sticky
It's
rubber.
rubbery
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
I think it's easier to clean. That's why they used to do it.
I
But
don't know. Yeah, thankfully, because it's really old, it's ripped to pieces. So there was a big section where we could rip it apart, with no lasting damage. We could put it back together, and then it was just concrete underneath. So
which was perfect.
yeah, it was 3 of us, I think.
Oh
You,
yeah,
me,
it
and
was
the sound guy.
you, me, and Kosyu,
Yeah,
and it was a blast to record.
we
I remember we were trying to hold in our laughter. It
yeah.
was because it was like we set up the mics. There were 2 overhead drum mics, and I remember we barely had enough cable to get them out of the
Oh
studio.
yeah, in the corridor.
And we press record, run to our starting positions. Everyone's behind each other, and we had to step exactly at the same time.
Yeah, we had to do these heavy steps. And
Yeah.
with chains dragging. And we did this like 20 times, to create the illusion of a whole herd of people, walking, a whole crowd. Yeah, also making all sorts of tortured noises, heavy breathing, panting, and stuff like that. So yeah, it was cool. I wish actually I had a few other ideas for stuff like this in between the songs, and we just didn't have time for all of them. Like there was supposed to be one after Boulevard.
What was
before-
that supposed to be?
It was
forgot.
supposed to be, waves in the ship, going ashore, dragging of sand and stuff like that.
Oh,
And you see seagulls and shit like that. So it's like the picture of Transcendence Snow. So the guy, there's no struggle anymore. He just arrives with the ship, going for the big mountain that he goes to for forever until.
well, we probably should have done it. Come to think,
We should have done it, and there was supposed to be like different details like this, a few other things too, but we just didn't have time. We were behind schedule. Like everything was super tense. We printed the merch and the CDs and got the paperwork done like literal days before the album launch party. So it was just, yeah.
Yeah, it's actually a surprising amount of bureaucracy to release an album.
Yeah, you have to allow yourself to publish your album. I had to register myself as 3 different people.
Wow.
Like the producer, the author, and someone else, and they had to have contracts between them. And the end of this was like, I, being me, allow myself to publish my own album, which also I wrote.
That's bureaucracy for you.
Slow clap, yeah. Anyway.
Flash Emporium, I think, was the first one we wrote after the EP.
Second one.
First one that made it into the album.
Yeah.
And
Boulevard
it
was the first one that made it into the album, but it was a different version of Boulevard. So yeah, Flash Emporium was.
Yeah, this was one of the first ones written before we even knew it was gonna be a concept album. Before we
Mhm.
knew it was gonna be an album at all.
Yeah. We actually used the title. We didn't have, as you said, no concept, no lyrical, anything. Our previous guitar player that we had before the Nous chapter, that we did the Crossroads EP with, he heard the tremolo riff and thought that it sounded like, it gave him Mad Max vibes. Like,
Really?
Yeah. So he had this concept in his head of, this dystopian desert world where, Mad Max inspired just by this riff.
Mhm.
And he picked the title Flash Emporium, and I don't know what he envisioned the song to be about. We didn't have lyrical concepts or anything, but we parted ways, and the title, we used it as a working title, but then, same as No Fun Intended, like the working title fit what the song was eventually used for, with the lyrical concept that we went with. So yeah, we just kept the title with his permission, of course. Part of the bureaucratic paperwork was,
Oh, yeah, I remember going through my house, then his house, then some other bureaucracy building,
yeah.
like signing stuff, printing. It was a bitch. But Flash Emporium was the first one I recorded for the album,
Mhm.
and for some reason the intro took me 1,000 takes to make.
Same.
like every time I record a new song, the intro no matter how easy it is,
Same.
it always takes a million years to record. Like, it's really simple. It's like the guitar does, and then the band goes in a, and I couldn't hit that to save my life. The timing was off. I had dead notes all the time. But from that point onwards, it was smooth sailing for mostly. It's probably the easiest song out of the whole album, at least for me. But it was it was written in another time.
Yeah, actually, we have a disagreement here with this song. Like, to be honest, I had different. If I had to do the vocals for this song now, I would have used different ideas for vocal patterns. So I definitely see some shortcomings in this regard, but maybe they are subjective. I don't know. However, despite what the end result turned out to be, I remember that I really liked how everything was put together, because this was one of my favorite examples of songwriting where you have the balance between a song that's no repeating parts and just bullshit, and a song that's the pop structure where everything repeats. So this is like everything that's in the song is also found somewhere else, but it just every time it reappears, it's maybe on top of the next thing, or it's fused to another element, and like the whole song is built up of 3 elements and everything is derived from there. And I just really like how the different elements are intertwined, you know, how the different variations are strung together. You know, this is something that I was like really proud of.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking yesterday when I was doing the notes for today, is that this is probably our first foray into, so to say, non-traditional song structures, because it has verses, but they're somewhat
two verses,
different.
3 choruses, yeah.
Yeah, but all the choruses are kind of different.
Yeah.
They're not as clear cut. And it has one of the most intimidating vocal parts on my part, the one before the Mad Max riff, as you call it. Every time we play this song on stage, I shit my pants because I don't know if I'm going to hit the first note.
This is actually one of my favorite parts that I've written, to be honest. The 3rd chorus. So what is supposed to be the 3rd or 2nd? I don't remember. It starts out as a regular chorus. So you have the first repetition, everything's fine. Then surprise, surprise. The basic melody shifts up, you know, the guitar plays the really high notes like some chimes or something, and then something completely different starts. That's heavy as shit. And we have this is another Winterson inspired moment. We have 2 separate vocal lines, me and you, that don't do the same thing. Like, I have my own line with my own rhythm, you have your own line with your own rhythm, and they are just like working together and overlapping on certain places where we say the same word. You know, it's like a moment where we agree and then we do different things again. And it's one of my favorite parts, really. Counterpoint.
It's the Hecktic version of good cop, bad cop.
Yeah, but it's like 2 lines at the same time. I adore this moment, to be honest. It's one of my favorites from the whole album. And also it has this section on the topic of counterpoint. It has this section with the counterpoint melodies also.
Oh yeah, the dual guitar solo thingy.
Yeah, it has just these really cool moments, and it's all of the album is like really fast and intense. So this took on a row of being the ballad, actually, even though it's technically the same tempo as No Fun Intended. Like, it's 120, but it's triplets. No Fun is 180.
Yeah.
So it's technically the same feel, but it has just this bit of a slower groove. And yeah, then we have the Boulevard of Broken Ribs, which was salvaged from the grave. It was one of the 2 songs we wrote after the Crossroads chapter. It was dead rock to begin with, because I was still in Crossroads mode, you know, where not gonna get into it now.
It was thrash metal, like old school thrash metal.
Yeah, but not really, because it was what we considered thrash, which was the soy boy dead rock, really. You know, it was 180 BPM, and it had an entirely different second half. So the first half of the song is relatively similar. Also, it's one of those things where it was written in a like 2 days or something. I was just like having fun. I wasn't even considering, doing something for the band. So I was just like, can I do the most generic, thrash thing with every cliche? So it had those,
Yeah.
with the harmonies and stuff. So yeah, we played this live a couple of times, just for fun. And then when we were doing the album, I was looking through the riff vault, with all of the old ideas. I found this song and I was like, at first we were like, of course we're not gonna use it for the album. Like, look at these other songs, they're so intense compared to this. And then I was like, let's do the following. Delete the whole second half, bump it up 20 BPM, make it 200 BPM, now at least it's recognized as metal. And add an entirely different second half of the song with all these layers and new elements that we learned from the making of the other Nous songs. So, it had the big layers, the acoustic guitars, the harmonies, the intense parts. And yeah, it's still one of those songs where it has caveman elements, it's our last tip of the head to, classic thrash repertoire. And the second half escalates to something I'd consider at least maybe closer to, I don't know, death metal. It's quite a bit faster.
I'd still call it thrash.
Maybe, yeah. It's heavy thrash, so yeah.
But I remember that the first time I heard this one, I immediately loved it. It was probably one of the very few songs that first time you showed it to me, I was like, fuck, this is fucking sick.
He likes the basic songs, yeah.
At least my taste was that at
again,
the time.
Sorry for interrupting, you hear them as tablatures. So
yeah,
if I send you something complicated, when I listen to the tablature, that sounds like, I don't know, I imagine all of the different parts, and to me, somehow it makes sense. When you hear something like
it sounds
this
like
with
an old
tablature,
school
it sounds
video
like
game.
a disaster, yeah. So,
but yeah, I loved it day one. When you were considering deleting it from the album, like not using it, I was really against that. I wanted to use it, and I didn't push my luck to ask you to make it a single. But I was considering it at some point.
you to see.
Even though I know you still don't like it that much.
No, I'm fine, to be honest.
Are you?
Yeah,
Oh.
I'm fine. In certain context, it works. If all of the songs were like this, of course not. But in a certain context, I'm really fine with it. It has its role in the set list.
It's a really good song to play live. I mean, people go crazy at it, like circle pits, headbanging. It's a real banger, and I think from the people that I've spoken with that listen to us, most of them tell me this is up there with their favorite songs. I mean, it's for them, it's one of the strongest songs of the album, and I have to agree to some extent. Like the choruses, I really love, and the solo is my favorite Hecktic solo to this day.
I didn't know that.
Oh,
But
I love it.
It's like this melodic arch enemy style type of thing.
Yeah,
I like
it's really
it too.
simple.
Yeah. No, I
It's-
like it. As with all of the solos, I don't really know where they come from, but I wouldn't say my favorite simply because it's not evil.
Yeah, but you can sing it. You can sing along
Of course,
to it.
yeah. So, and also it has this really big caveman moment. It's in B. So again, you have this situation where you're spamming these inverted power chords all the time, which is sick. The pre-choruses
And if you're a bass player, you
doing
just play
this.
fifth string.
When he got the fifth string bass, man, that song opened up. Like when you do on the pre-choruses, these gallops with the inverted power chords, just devastating. And then the breakdown riff. I think I've told you
I
this.
call it the riff.
Yeah, the heavy caveman riff. That is the money riff, right?
Yeah.
So here's how it happened. When I was writing this, I was just recording stuff on my computer, right, in a project, and I had just gotten to the point where this riff happens, and I didn't know what was gonna follow. I clicked record to record the riff before this, so I record the riff before this, and then instead of it comes time, to end the however much progress I had made, and instead of just stopping, I just instantly started playing this riff out of nowhere.
Wow.
So yeah, it's just one of those things that free riff, transmission from the aliens. It just
The
started.
universe spoke to you.
I was holding this long bend with the tap harmonic, and then I felt that something needed to hit, and the riff just happened out of nowhere.
Yeah. really heavy, really nice.
Really heavy, yeah. Love it too. And yeah, so this is what we had an original idea of when we were still afraid of doing a full-length album. We wanted to split it into EPs when we didn't believe that we could write an album. So if we would have split it into EPs, this would have been the first half.
Yeah.
These 4 songs, they're all in the same vein, more or less.
It's mostly thrashy stuff.
Yeah,
Like a lot in the vein of what we were doing before that, like
definitely
Crossroads.
starts that way. Yeah,
Yeah, Crossroads type of stuff, like but upgraded.
at
like,
least in terms of influences, I would say,
yeah.
because
you can tell it's the same band playing.
maybe, yeah. And then we get to the scary second part, which was now we were afraid of these songs. Like we didn't even play them as a band, I think, before we started recording. At least not that much. We played the first 4 songs a lot.
Yeah, because we were playing them live.
Yeah,
I
some
think
of
all
them.
of them we played live.
So yeah, we were not that scared of them. But the second half, first of all, it was written later, so we had less time to live with the songs. Second, they were incomparably harder, and we were just so scared of them. They had all of these layers and complicated parts. So now we get to Transcendence Now. So it has this typical pedal point pattern with the guitars, which is cool. And it's a really simple song. It was actually, I had a minute and a half of riffs for this song, the middle section, the bridge.
Mhm.
I had this like, as I was telling
The
you.
fucked up part, or
Yeah, including the fucked up part, but
Uh-huh.
the riffs before that, the riffs after this. So I had basically half the song. I knew it wasn't the start of the song or whatever. I had written it in like half an hour, and I hadn't touched it for a year and a half. And then I was writing the final song, Damnatio, and I was so sick of this because it was so complicated to put together. I was working on it for like 2 months, and then one day I was like, I can't, my brain is overwhelmed with this. I'm just gonna do something simple. I opened the Rift Vault, found this, finished it in like 2 hours.
oh yeah,
Boom.
and it feels like that way. It feels like a drive-by. You
Mhm.
know, like in the gangster movies, they drive with the
Yeah.
car, shoot everything up, and before you know it, they're gone. This is what this song feels like.
Yeah, I wanted it to be a contrast to the song I was working on currently, which was, as I said, Damnatio, and it was inspired. The structure was inspired by "Blinded by Fear" by At the Gates, which is like 3 sections and they just repeat. That's it, and it's very short, sub 3 minutes,
Yeah, it's
and it
250 something.
just works. Yeah, just works. So yeah, but the fucked up part that you mentioned, we had this part where it makes complete sense to me. I think it also makes sense to you, even though you're just playing open notes. I think there. It
Yeah,
has
but
offbeat triplets.
I had to when I was recording it. It took too much brain power. So, as I remember, I muted everything, like the metronome, the drums, the guitars. I muted everything, and this was the only way I could make sense of it. But recording it, this song was pretty straightforward for me.
Not for me.
I channeled my inner David Ellefson
Mhm.
because like the whole song is palm muted mostly, and as we mentioned in the previous episode of the podcast, this is the time I started learning how to add tension, where I started learning that less is more.
It also has this really cool moment, when the vocals start. For
Oh,
live,
yeah.
this is so fucking heavy. It has this ta-dum, dum, ta-dum, and then it's quiet. And then I can do the bear impersonation. And so, yeah, I experiment with different noises every time. And I remember one time on rehearsal, I had just unlocked the goblin part of the goblin sounds, the lower bits. And
I wouldn't say that's a
remember-
goblin. It's more like
Yeah,
the Balrog.
yeah, the power rock. So I remember one day we played it on rehearsal, and I just saw you like,
Oh yeah, I really love the vocals on that one.
yeah, it's cool. And also, I'm really proud of the riffs. It has the solo on this one is the hardest one to play live, I think, because it's really simple. It has nothing out of the ordinary. When I write solos, I try to find different weird sounds that fit only there, and this one is one of the most straightforward solos. It has guitar techniques that people do, you know. It's just the hard part is just arpeggios, you know, basic E minor and diminished alternating. So this is a bitch to play live though, because the guitar is a moving target, and it's very hard for me sometimes if I'm not used to playing standing up for a
Yeah, actually, this is something that you remark after every show.
yeah.
Every time we play a show, ever since we've released the song, he like
I either tell you I
he's going
fucked it
to-
up, or I'm like, dude,
yeah,
I
he's-
nailed it.
we get off we get off stage, like silence, no one's saying anything, and he's like, yeah, I fucked the Through Sadness No song.
Yeah.
And he's probably the only one that actually would notice that, but
Yeah, and it's one of the parts where I had made a video of it, you know, with just a click track, posted it on Instagram. So yeah, it's definitely a situation where if you're not used to playing it standing up, it's difficult to do these incredibly big jumps, because you have to, in the span of 16 notes, you have to switch positions, and it's really tough to hit the right place sometimes when you have to do, you know, that speed. So yeah, that's kind of difficult. And this one was also really lighthearted and spontaneous. I remember we were writing the drum parts, the last riff, you know, the breakdown section, you know, that ends the song. It had a different ending for the second two bars. We were writing the drum parts. We got to there, and I was like, oh no, wait a second. Grabbed the computer, wrote it in a different way, and it stuck. And also, again, our drummer just appeared because we were gonna write drum parts after we finish this episode for the new song. So yeah, moving on, we have one of the crown jewels of the album, I think.
yeah, I'd actually the way I would explain this song is probably the Hecktic calling card, because it has everything we do basically. You have the clean parts, you have the thrashy bits, you have the non-traditional song structure. For me, it's a perfect representation of what we do.
Yeah, I think it's by this point, this was one of the last songs that were written, and by this point we had some confidence. So at least it has some riffs that are reminiscent of the Boulevard riffs, but by this point I was a bit more confident in putting my own take on things. So it's like how thrash metal, the first half has a lot of thrash metal cliches, you know, the first solo and stuff like that. And the song that we threw out, the song 12, one of the riffs in the intro is inspired by this sort of I wanted a similar type of feel. And then it has a section that's a bit, you know, a bit of a joke. It makes sense in the context of the story, but it's like, yeah.
I call it the Red Hot Chili Peppers section.
Yeah.
He showed it to me, and I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to do here? And I was like, okay, guess I'll slap.
In the tablature, we call it the ice cream section, the ice cream truck section.
Yeah, because for him it sounded like it was an ice cream truck.
Yeah, it's supposed to be this in the story, you know, this is the moment where the protagonist is like brought back to the memories of his entire life. So he starts out with the innocence of childhood and stuff like that, and progressively gets this, you know, this melody that starts out really happy and careless and even funny, like a children's toy commercial melody or something.
Yeah.
You know, starts getting darker and darker with every repetition, and then you have the big, you know, section where we strum chords, and it has some of the best vocal lines, I think.
Also, one thing that I remember from mixing this part is the baby crying.
Yeah.
Remember? We were at the studio mixing this part, and
Looking
up
for
to this
baby noises.
up to this point, I wasn't really sure what this part is supposed to be. Like, I did the Red Hot Chili Peppers slap, at least that's how I call it, but I wasn't really sure what it was supposed to sound like in the finished product. And we did this lo-fi sound for it.
I think you didn't know it was supposed to be lo-fi.
No, I didn't.
Yeah.
And we do the lo-fi effect, and Alex says, "Now we need a baby crying."
And that's the first time they heard that, and they were like, "What?"
What the fuck? And
So
we
the
start.
vision for this whole thing was like the guy, for example, is out of unconscious, even into the spirit realm somewhere with fuzzy dreams and stuff. Everything's broken and stuff like that. So this is why it's the lo-fi section, which they didn't know. They were like, man, this is not working. As part of the song. This is why I think when we do this live, I tried doing it with a wah pedal in holding the stationary position, but it's way too complicated for me because you have to step on my wah pedal like 10 times to make it turn over and off.
Yeah, I know. I've used it.
Yeah.
But yeah, and looking for the correct baby sound was
It's just to make it.
It was so funny, man. We're looking through babies crying on the internet at like 2 a.m. and he's like, nah, we need a baby with more with more distortion.
Такова дет му дават газ. Дори не се бях замислил, просто бях, не, дай там после дет му дават газ. It's videos of, parents filming their offspring and their hell spawn, oh, look at how cute he is. And we were looking for noises to put on a metal album,
Yeah. Imagine the parents of that kid, like...
they wouldn't recognize it. We had Decapitator on this also. We also distorted the shit out of it, so...
Yeah, and the part that comes afterwards, it's... I just call it the big dick energy riff. Every time I play this live, I feel like I'm 30 centimeters taller.
Yeah. So the part that comes after this, up from the end of the meme section until, basically
Well, it's
almost
not
to
really
the
a
end of the
meme
song.
section. It has its place.
Of course, yeah. But so this next section, to be honest, I take no credit for writing it. Simply because I don't actually know how it happened. Like the whole quiet section with the acoustic guitars and when there's, what I'm talking about, right? The mid section with the solos and stuff. It's one of my favorite things that I've written, like top 3, and I have no idea how it happened. Like I just wrote stuff into the computer just like this. I was like, I held the guitar, tried some, what if it went to this chord next? And immediately I just wrote it before I even had time to think of, this is not what.
So for you, it's like a mystery riff. Who wrote it? Who did it?
Yeah, I have quite a few moments recently with the new songs. I think I allow this process to happen a lot more. But it's the first time this happened. It's the first time I experienced this.
Well, that's your question of the day. Who wrote this riff? Hit us up on Instagram and you'll get something special. Okay. So also 2 things I want to note about this song is it's the first time that I did tapping on the bass, which didn't make it into the studio version, but I do it live, and it's really fun. And it's first few times it gave me mad anxiety because venue's dark. I need to go to the dusty end of the neck. I barely see where I'm at. And I have to do some fiddly shit, but also press the strings real hard because it's a fucking bass. It needs power to make sound. And also another thing I want to remark is that this song probably contains my favorite of my vocal parts, like at the end after the solo,
Yeah. It's the goosebumps moment, right?
Oh yeah, for
it's
sure.
Some of my favorite lyrics too.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love playing it, love singing it. And it was also surprisingly not challenging to play and sing at the same time because my part of this riff is kind of has nothing to do rhythm-wise with the vocals.
Yeah, welcome to my world.
Yeah, I know this is like another Tuesday for you.
We had a moment with this where I don't know, for some song he was like, "Oh man, this is so hard to play and sing," and I'm like, "No, dude, look, I'm doing it this way. Here's how they fit together." And he was like, "I'm not you, man."
But yeah, I figured it out, and now I don't even think while doing. I don't think you're supposed to think while doing this sort of things, but
this song is it has definite magic in it. I think this was also the inspiration behind this guy, the album artwork. So I really wanted to have, this was one of the first times where it had very strong visual associations for me. it created this visual association. So this guy, you know, the whole concept of the artwork is captured in there. I think the intro, it's just like sounds like, to me at least, like this guy is almost on the top of the mountain, strong riffs, you know, they're blowing pieces off of him and stuff like this. So if you want to know what this sounds like to me, this is how it sounds like to me. I think my sister, she did the artwork. I really like how it came out, and it captured the vibe perfectly, I think.
Oh yeah, the artwork is really fitting for the song, for the album, for everything.
Yeah, every song had its picture, or was supposed to. You know, we did what we could with the time we had, but this one was supposed to be the picture for Forever Until.
And we're almost at the end, but time for the big one.
Time for the big boy.
Yeah, Damnatio Memoriae. That was really the odd one of the bunch. I remember when he showed it to me.
I was sure he was gonna hate it, and it was actually, you were like, oh, I wish it had more parts.
Well, I remember that I liked the riffs. I liked the vibe, but I was like, up till like the second or third minute, everything makes perfect sense to me, and afterwards it goes to shit. And I was like, dude, just if you make this a pop song, it's going to be a fucking banger. Like a pop song is in a traditional song structure. I wasn't really used to the unorthodox way of structuring songs at the time, but and I was really skeptical for this one, to the point of recording it. And funny thing, when I was recording it, I didn't even know which riff came after which. On one monitor it was Reaper and me recording, and on my other monitor was Guitar Pro, looking at what comes next. But afterwards, this one for sure became my favorite song. Every part of it is fucking perfect.
Yeah, it has the most amounts of drama, and of course, it's same as the other one. I think with the last two songs, there's definite, at least in my humble opinion, or maybe not so humble, I think what we set out to do was achieved. There was some magic captured there. So the whole thing started with, as I told you, this one, the acoustic intro. So
yeah.
I wanted to capture, okay, I'm gonna tell a story. It's a bit dramatic and cringy. So my great grandmother passed away, like I think 10 years ago or something like this. And my grandmother, who is her daughter, you know, I remember telling me once, there were some wind chimes in the garden, like these things that hang, and you know, wind, you know what I'm talking about. So I remember I was, you know, a kid running around the garden, you know, destroying shit and whatever. And I was like touching it and playing with it. And my grandmother, you know, whose mother had just died, told me like, oh, that's my mother's voice, don't touch it. You know, the wind that's blowing the wind chimes. Wow. So yeah, somehow when I came up with the melody on the acoustic guitar, you know, the intro, this somehow immediately, for some reason, dug out this memory from, I don't know from where, you know. I must have been, no, more than 10 years. I must have been like 10 years old myself, you know. So 15 years ago. It immediately jumped to the forefront of my mind, and I was like, these are wind chimes. This will be... I immediately had a vision of what kind of atmosphere the song was going to have. And this was one of the failures of, you know, because we didn't have enough time. We were supposed to, my original idea was we were supposed to find wind chimes, sample them, and, you know, have sample the individual wind chimes. And it was supposed to be this, you know, wind chimes just clanging together from the wind and then gradually turning into this melody, you know, getting more and more rhythmical and stuff like that. So we had to do what we could with the time that we had. So we found some samples of wind chimes that generally were not too much off key, and yeah, but this was supposed to be the original idea.
Well, I don't know, I like it the way it is.
Yeah, it works. It's not too far off. And yeah, this was the song with the maximum drama, you know. There was nothing held back. The lyrics, I like them a lot, actually. It ends the whole cycle from the first song to the last. Is the end of the story.
Yeah, lyrics are fucking badass.
Yeah,
they make me want to cry for sure.
Me too. Like, man, what is wrong with you? Me to me, you know. So yeah, really big moments. One shortcoming is that, of course, there are gonna be some shortcomings and mistakes always. I wish that somehow the song could have more breathing space for vocals. I don't know how I could have achieved this with the song structure. So it's maybe the song was cursed from the get-go to be this way. I don't know. For one reason or another, it's one of the negative aspects as a listener.
Wow.
For me at least, that it has just too much, or maybe I'm just looking at it this way because when I have to do it live, it's the hardest thing ever because I have to be Eminem. There's no room for breathing. The lines overlap, which works for the recording, but I have to deliberately skip words because there's just no way to breathe. And now that we haven't played for a while and we start playing again, rehearsing with the new lineup, I've forgotten which words have to be skipped, I learned this technique where you can breathe in faster for some reason if you press your tongue to the roof of your mouth. Try it. It works if you're standing up. For some reason, it tricks your brain somehow, it's faster. So I have these words where I skip them and just do this, to be able to have enough breath because it's impossible otherwise.
Well, then next time we do something like this, you need to take a rap masterclass or something.
Yeah, I was listening to the Black Dahlia Murder a lot. I showed you the song recently when I thought that this song's vocal lines would be a good idea. He does the rap god thing a lot.
Oh, so, yeah. He'll do that where he doesn't shut up for the whole song.
Yeah, I thought that this was gonna be a good idea. Not sure if it is. For live situations, it definitely isn't. But, also one of my favorite solos is just Mean. I love it. And it has all sorts of parts that we could talk. It has these acoustic sections where it's really cool that the rhythm of the acoustic guitars changes with every repetition. So it has like 8 notes and then groups of 8-note triplets. And the groups of 8-note triplets are different on every repetition. It has the big ending with the
throwback to
how do you say the fucking German?
Goethe?
Okay, this dude. It has a quote for him at the end. The spoken words are by him from Faust, I think.
Yeah.
And then the whole song ends, the melody from No Fun Intended starts appearing, magically layered on top of the riff that, we originally identify with Damnatio. Surprise, surprise, it's also connected with No Fun Intended. On the end of the song, we bring it back, and then it ends with both of them together and closes the cycle.
Yeah, it's a really good closing of the album. We made it to the end.
We made it to the end, and the last one is I wanted to capture this. It starts with acoustic guitars. Most of it is acoustic, really. It has no click track. Of it. Yeah, it has no click track on the first section. It's like this how classical pieces are composed. Like there's no rigid tempo. The tempo flows.
How many guitars are there?
Yes. Yeah, this one I couldn't remember this one for the life of me. I knew the main guitar, but all of them I had to, I brought a laptop with the tablatures with me and I was sight reading them. I just couldn't remember them at all. There were like 8 guitar parts on one of the sections. There's no way I could remember this, and all of the acoustic guitars for the album were done in one day. So that I just couldn't remember it and I was sight reading it. But anyway, so this one doesn't have lyrics because I wanted the story of the album to be sort of open-ended. You decide how it goes on. You decide what exactly happened. Did he die, or was it a figure of speech or whatever? So I wanted this to capture the feeling of being underwater and hearing someone talk from up there. Like what's happening above the surface is no longer your business, but you're still hearing the echoes because you're not that far away yet. So it has...
Is that why we hit the spoken vocals? Mm-hmm. By the way, our producer made an incredible job with that.
Yeah.
If you listen really closely, there's some spoken word there.
Ghosts and shit all over place. So it's what it is. It's different. There's quite a bit of spoken words throughout the album. Narration. Talking in Flash Emporium all over the place. So we gathered these, scrambled them together, and distorted the shit out of them. Made them sound as if you're like underwater and hearing them from above or something like this.
Yeah, from far away.
Yeah, and this is what it is. It's echoes of the stories that you've lived. This is it. So yeah, it was this quiet moment. And yeah, it ends with, of course, the Big Bang.
Which is the part where also the rest of the band plays.
Yeah.
At least on the recording, because we don't play that live. But I wanted to try something different and use a wah pedal. I borrowed his wah pedal, and this was a really funny story. I had never operated such a device in my...
So complicated.
So complicated. And I called my brother, because it turned out it was a 2-person job. He operated the wah pedal. I was playing, and he was like pushing it with his hands, which absolutely did not work. We couldn't sync it for the life of us. And I didn't have a reamp box. I still don't. But probably it would have been way easier to just reamp it in post. And it's kind of a shame that it didn't end up in the final song, but it still amuses me that it took 2 people to operate such complicated
one
machinery.
Person and 1 bass player, yeah.
Yeah, 1 person and 1 bass player.
So not 2 people, really.
1.5.
Yeah. No, fuck that joke. I love bass players. But anyway, this was the closing track of the album. It's sort of this 7-song cycle where the story loops, repeats itself. He comes back to the beginning and stuff like that all the time. And the only way out is through this song. So, yeah. The only way out, story-wise, to be precise, is through what happens in Forever or Until. But, if he gets out this way, what follows is, insight. And, yeah, this concludes the 35 minutes that are our debut album.
Yeah.
Now we're gonna go write drum parts for the new one. See ya. Bye.
See ya.